So it's early August right now, and I just finished the Northeast BDR. It is chock full of adventure, off-road riding, scenic locations, small towns, everything that a BDR is known for. You're gonna find it on this route. And I wanna share all of that with you now. So what are my impressions about this new BDR route? First of all, this is the longest BDR to date. I just finished, I looked at my trip odometer, and it's 1,500 plus miles to get to where I'm at now. Overall impressions of this route, it definitely gets into the backcountry. I think it has everything that you would expect and want to find on a backcountry discovery route. I spent 8.5 days riding to get here and pretty much encountered every kind of off-road challenge that you can imagine. We went through some small river crossings, some steep, loose, rocky uphill sections, some mud, there was rain along the way. All of these factors go into a BDR route and can change the level of difficulty at a moment's notice or from season to season. New York was a gentle start to this BDR route, but it was riding in the backcountry. It was seeing parts that I had never seen before, and I really enjoyed New York. Heading through Connecticut and Massachusetts, that was about a day or a day and a half of riding. Actually, the route only just scratches the surface of Connecticut. You spend a little bit more time going through Massachusetts, and if memory serves me correctly, I believe there were a couple of short, moderate technical sections in Massachusetts. Where the fun really begins is in Vermont. Our scout, our riding partner, Eric, really put together a fantastic ride through Vermont. They have a classification called Class 4 roads, which basically mean that these are the non-maintained roads. And so they're in disrepair. They kind of wind their way through the woods between different towns and villages, and they can be really challenging. They can be uphill, loose, steep, rocky. If it's wet, the rocks can be slippery, there can be mud. All of those kinds of things make these sections difficult. There are several of these, probably at least 10 or 12 of these technical Class 4 roads in Vermont. So Vermont was probably the highlight in terms of adventure and challenge, that kind of riding. New Hampshire was easy. New Hampshire had a lot of pavement and the off-road sections weren't that difficult. The big highlight in New Hampshire is to go up Mount Washington. It's over 6,000 feet of elevation. It's known for having the worst weather in the United States. In fact, the highest recorded wind speed on Earth happened on Mount Washington, over 200 miles an hour. Mount Washington is quite often socked in with bad weather and clouds, and you can't see anything from the top. So if you're passing through this area and the weather is good, you don't want to miss the opportunity to go up to the top of Mount Washington. It's a super fun road to get to the top. It twists and turns with amazing views. It's paved for part of the way, it's dirt for part of the way, but you're literally riding on the knife edge of sheer drop-offs, and it just winds its way to the top of the mountain where you have a spectacular vista overlooking 360 degrees of New England all around. There's a visitor center up there. You can get lunch, grab a coffee, check out the view. You won't regret that. That's definitely one of the highlights on this route, and in particular the state of New Hampshire. And then finally, in Maine, we were joined by our friend Brian Pullen, who shared his wealth of knowledge about the state that he lives in with us. I've never been this far north on the East Coast before, and I truly didn't have any idea of just how remote and how wild it could be. Maine wasn't particularly challenging technically. There are some sections, but it's just remote. If you ever wondered what it would be like to ride a motorcycle up to Alaska, you can get a taste of that on this route by riding in Maine. They're forest roads, they're logging roads, and they go for mile after mile after mile through this great Maine Northwoods backcountry. The route in Maine goes up the western part of Maine. We avoid the coast because, frankly, it's too populated. There's too many tourists and traffic and all of that kind of stuff. We like to stay in the backcountry, so our route designers have chosen to take this route up the western part of Maine. If you make it this far, where I'm at right now, you definitely should congratulate yourself because it's no easy feat to get up here. The big question that everyone wants to know is, how hard is it? Well, that depends. It depends a lot on your skill level, first of all, the size of motorcycle that you're riding. And I think that this route is probably in the middle range of technical difficulty. It's definitely harder than the NEBDR, the Mid-Atlantic BDR, but perhaps not as hard as like Arizona or Utah. I think what makes this route kind of unique in terms of the difficulty is that it starts out really gently and then it gradually ramps up in difficulty, particularly in Vermont. The good news is, if you're challenged in those scenarios, is that they're not very long. A lot of these sections are a mile or so, maybe a little more, a little less through the woods. And so they don't go on forever. I didn't find this route too challenging, although there were enough challenges along the way to get my heart racing and my blood pumping, and I felt pretty good about what I was able to accomplish on a 1200 GS going through some of these sections. If you're a novice rider, this is going to be a great route to test your skills, build up some skills riding off-road. You will get into some tough technical sections. They don't last too long, but they are challenging. If you have a lot of experience riding off-road, then you're really going to enjoy these off-road technical sections because they really give the route some character, some spice. The Mid-Atlantic BDR would be a perfect first BDR, or maybe the Idaho BDR, and then maybe this one could be a follow-up to that. Get some experience riding off-road and come out here, explore this route, go through some technical sections, and you'll feel pretty good about yourself. I would say that overall my best guess is that it is 60% or more off the pavement. So a healthy dose of off-pavement riding on this adventure, which is what you look for in a backcountry discovery route. You'll definitely want to use a GPS with the tracks for this route. There are so many turns that it would be next to impossible to try to navigate this route with only a paper map. So my suggestion is don't even think about doing this route without a GPS and the track, and also have a paper map as a backup or to like orient yourself to the big picture. So that's all for now. I really hope that you've enjoyed this first look at the Northeast BDR. I really want to thank Backcountry Discovery Routes for sending me out on this adventure to scout the newest BDR. It's been an absolute blast and I can't wait to share it with you. You can find it online. Just go to ridebdr.com for more information. If you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel, click that little like button, and thanks for watching. We'll see you down the road.